hear nothing. I hear mine. There you go.
There we go. Now we got some. You're listening to this, people?
Yeah, I can hear it.
All right, we're live.
You mean you got it right this time?
Well, I muted the TV, so that gives me a lot of credit. Hey, everybody, Doug Fowler here, Pulaski Talks, sitting in the studio, basement, dungeon, whatever you want to call it, with Nick Pappas, candidate for Pulaski County Sheriff, here in lovely Missouri. Nick, you've been working hard, it looks.
Yeah, it's the heat's getting to you, man. Or to me, anyway.
It's busy. It's only 90 degrees out, but it feels so much hotter.
The humidity's kicking.
It really does. It's been kicking me, and I just stay inside. That's what you can't hear the air conditioner now. Thank goodness. I figured out how to put the noise canceling on.
Yeah. So remember the guys when they're wearing their black uniforms and they got 2 shirts on and an outer carrier and all their gear on. It gets a little rough for the road guys.
I can't even fathom that. I don't want to, but I'm thankful I don't have to do those jobs, but I'm thankful for those that do the job. So we got some questions, folks, and I appreciate everybody that emailed the questions, texted questions, phoned in questions. It's been I think about almost a week or so since we had our last show, and Nick was, I believe, the last one. So
yeah, sure.
I think we're picking up. So, and also for everybody, we'll shout out to the sponsors, especially Peru Law Office, gold sponsors since we started this little shindig. A to Z Extermination, thank you so much for being a sponsor. And of course, Nick, you're a sponsor. Brian's a sponsor, and Stacy's a sponsor. I appreciate making this happen. Got some bugs over there?
No.
I think
it's from where what is it, your sound engineer?
Sound engineer, yeah.
Yeah, I was walking on it.
So the most common type of questions I've been getting these last few weeks, in preparation for this show, was talking about drugs and the nexus between drug use, drug problems, and thievery or theft or whatever you want to call it, whatever the terminology is proper thing. But what's your stance or your position, or even better yet, maybe you could dig into what you believe the nexus is between those two items or problems that we have in Pulaski County?
So it's not like the depression area where people might steal to feed their families anymore, right? So anybody that carries a badge pretty well knows if there's theft going on, it's probably going to be drug related because that's how they pay for their dope.
Sure.
They trade for it, they sell them, whatever it may be to buy that dope. And when you're spending $100+ a day on dope, you got to make some money somehow.
Oh, I absolutely, because nobody's going to give you the money. And I'm fortunate. I live in St. Robert, and we're right down the street from City Hall. So 2 seconds they're here.
Yeah.
If I got a question about whatever's going on, they're right here. But in the county, I hear something about distribution plans, zoning, and stuff like that. But I can't imagine if we got a max of 4 patrol officers or deputies on the road, covering 50,000 acres, I think it is, or how many? 13,000.
500 and something square miles of land.
Yeah, square miles of land.
And don't forget the back door, which is Big Piney,
exactly.
Often forgotten.
Yeah, exactly. And then to respond and take care of that. What did you say was a strategy you may talk to about how to address the nexus between the thievery and the theft and with the drug trafficking stuff?
We actually talked about it. I don't know. I've done several shows. I can't remember which one. But basically intelligent-led policing.
Yeah.
So when you go to a theft, you can almost bank on it being drug-related in some fashion. There are those exceptions, but they're kind of few and far between. But a lot of it has to do with who lives in the area, who works that area, because the thieves typically will work in an area they're familiar with.
Okay.
Not always, but usually.
Sure.
And intelligent-led policing is just that. You work it up. It's based on the evidence you collect, how you process it, the information you gather.
Right.
And your community plays a big part of that, and their ability to provide information without getting involved. In other words, anonymous tips.
Sure.
So to just immediately discount any information that comes in, you sometimes have to realize you got to pluck out what's actually relevant, because what we often perceive is not factual. We think we see something and it's not what it is. But consistent law enforcement, you got to be aggressive and relentless. So if they know you're going to come hard, if there's a theft, and we work it to the bitter end, we may not produce it, but it does send a message. We're not going to play.
Right.
And, you know, that goes along with the dope. I'm here to tell you I've collected, I don't know how much DNA evidence from theft scenes. Downside is it takes a minute. Like a year.
Crime lab out of Jeff City, is that where it's at?
There's multiple labs. There's one in Springfield. There's one in Jeff City. Those are the two closest for us. Great labs, very user friendly. But everything plays a role. All the evidence, the information that comes in. But to have somebody trained in that, that can compile that information, that's where it gets tricky. You know, you can't just say, well, I'm an intelligence officer. It doesn't work that. How do you put it together? Association matrices and things of that nature, and then be able to actually piece that together to put the case together and get it to a prosecutor. So, you know, tracking all that information is time consuming, and it's also will lead to other cases as well. So usually when you get a crime spree, you know, you start getting multiple burglaries, you can bank you're probably going to find a small group that's doing it. I can't say it definitively.
But drugs and likely is not being a part of the problem.
Yeah. Well, drugs is usually the problem because they're, you know, I mean, they got feet to habit.
Yeah. And they're not going to work a steady 9 to 5.
No.
Give me a second while I turn off my cameras.
Yeah. My headphones.
The on that topic, you know, we got people that live out the back gate, out in the rural areas. You know, most people do in this county. And how can the community itself police its own or take care of its own, or help to address the problem, in your opinion?
You know, the old adage, you know, after 9/11, they came up with see something, say something.
Right. So
a lot of people think that's an Army, you know, verbiage. It's actually a national security issue. So see something, say something, report it. Even if you don't think it is, that's our job to sort that out.
Right.
And you can do it anonymously. You know, you can call it in. It gets compiled, but we have to take action on it. The other flip side of that is this actually kind of comes into transparency. So when you do a case like that, and you gather all that information, and you put it all together, and you build your case, first of all, it's time consuming, so it doesn't happen overnight.
Right.
Okay. A hard criminal investigation does not happen overnight. This is not CSI. Right. We don't have a built-in lab. You can forget all that. But at the end of the day, when we actually can get it to the prosecutor and they can file charges on it, that's when we need to say, hey, with the help of the community, the information provided, you know, yes, it took time, but we were able to resolve this issue, whatever that issue may be.
Right.
And that's kind of how that comes into it.
I don't know if it's a problem. We're talking about now drugs in the jail. And if you were to win the election, Sheriff, and you were to find out that the problem does exist in the Pulaski County Jail, what would be one of the first things you'd have to do to try to get your arms around that monster?
Actually, you don't wait for it to happen. You just address it right up front. But a lot of that comes with training.
Right.
So, you know, a lot of jailers, unfortunately, are trained at the jail. And it's not their fault. It's just the nature of the beast. It's not the best paying job. However, we can provide that training, and a lot of that has to do with the intake process, ensuring they're searched well before they get to the jail, which, trust me, it doesn't always work. You got somebody fighting you. That's the nature of the beast. But you get them in, you know, policies and procedures are actually designed to minimize and mitigate any contraband, period, getting into the jail. You don't want anything going into jail. Weapons, narcotics, paraphernalia.
Cell phones.
Yeah, cell phones, nothing. So good policies and procedures, make sure the jailers or the corrections officers are trained to that standard. They follow that standard. They're allowed to follow that standard. In other words, the supervisors, what you'll find in a lot of agencies, you get so wrapped up and you're so busy in absolutely everything. What happens? Oh, well, we're going to flex the rules a little bit
Sure.
to get caught up. Well, that flexing or that change, unofficial change to that procedure is what will cause issues. And the next thing you know, oh, well, you didn't follow the procedure. Yeah, well, and it costs us.
One of our favorite shows we watch here is called what's it called? To Catch a Smuggler at the airports.
Yeah.
And they go to all these different airports around the world, and the ones we're watching right now are down in Lima, Peru, and Colombia. But it's all talk about protocol and procedures, and unwavering. You know exactly step one through step B. If you don't deviate from that process, the chances are unlikely that something will happen. But if you do, just like you say, if you flex, it creates a leak.
Yep.
You know, in a sieve. So if you haven't watched that show, I encourage anybody. It's a great show. It's on Hulu, and we watch it. But To Catch a Smuggler or Airport Security. But every time I watch that, I think of our police force. And if you follow procedures, and just like the military, we've got doctrine, TTP. We follow those, and good things happen. You don't follow it, it's room for error.
They're vetted. So, you know, those policies and procedures are there to protect not just the officer or the jail, but whoever you're arresting, the victims. That's why they're there. Yeah. You know, it's an overarching, protection, if you will.
Well, it's just like you said, if you have an unhappy guest who's unwilling to participate in the lodging success program down there in Waynesville, I could see the tendency to want to skip over a step or two. Okay, we're just going to get him in the cell, let it cool off. Well, if he doesn't have a clean intake, you don't know what he's got.
There's procedures for that as well, and that's when there's something in place and you train them, you have to let them do their job and let them follow that procedure. Right. As a supervisor, we got to resist that urge.
Right.
To say, man, the heck with it, just get them in a holding cell. Yeah. You have to resist that urge.
Go follow process. So we got Darren on the line, Darren Brashear. Thank you so much for tuning in. You say you are a working candidate. How many?
I have 3 jobs.
3 jobs.
I work part-time for one law enforcement agency locally. I'm a deputy coroner
for Pulaski County.
For Pulaski County, and I'm a full-time detective lieutenant with an outside agency for another county.
Nope. I'm too old and fat to work that hard. Not going to do it. Hope that answers your question, Darren. Thank you so much.
Should have known he'd pop up in there somewhere.
Oh, yeah. So let's go on down to some of these other questions.
All right, what do we got?
Demand. One of the everything I watched on that show. As long as there's a demand for drugs, there'll always be a drug program or problem.
Mm-hmm.
And what initiatives do you think you might be able to implement to I can't say cease the demand, but
mitigate it,
or at least try to control it?
So I've been looking at other counties, larger counties, with unfortunately much larger pocketbooks than we have.
Sure.
But they have a lot, and now I'm getting into the youth here, by the way.
Right.
So you want to prevent it at a younger age, right? So when you get a child that's starting to have issues, instead of just throwing them into a juvenile type program, there's different mentor programs out there that are already in place and working. So we could, I don't want to say copy it, but implement something to that effect. And they're more like mentor programs. Believe it or not, Big Brothers Big Sisters is still really huge out there. I've seen it work, but it takes a lot of volunteers and it takes a lot of time. And that's where I've talked about it in the past, working from the ground up,
right,
and from the top down. You have to do it simultaneously. So, when you encounter somebody, right then and there is when you have to address it. So we have multidisciplinary team meetings, and those are the people that we've already got into the program. But here's the reality. You're on the road and you go to a call, it's an OD, you show up, you're not going to make an arrest with good SAM law unless something really extreme happens, and you're talking to the person and you say, hey, do you want help? Yeah, I'm tired. I need help.
Right.
So you make some phone calls to some different agencies locally that handle that, organizations. You get all the info and you refer it. Next thing you know, they can't find them. Why? Because they've already left the area. They've gone somewhere else, and now you've lost that contact. When they say they need help, right then and there is the time to do it.
Not later.
I don't even care if it's an hour later. Something I had kicked around a little bit and been looking at as well. Again, everything is a lot of based on community support.
Mm-hmm.
Your faith-based organizations, your nonprofits, not-for-profits, just overall your county office holders, PA office, all this has to come together and say, this is how we can do this, right?
Right.
You don't want to interfere with a legal process. You don't want to violate somebody's rights. You don't want to interfere with their health care they may already be receiving. There's a lot of things that are integral in there. But I dubbed it a community liaison office, and it's something I had looked at, I want to say Washington State. When I had the concept, I started looking around, seeing if there was something out there that was similar to see how it worked. And the way it works is you have an office that somebody's on call all the time, so it takes more than one person, and they are tied into all the resources, your churches, your health care, your everything, juvenile. Right. They are tied into all of it. So even if you come across somebody homeless, we want to help, right? Instead of just saying, well, go find you a curb to sleep on.
Right.
If they want the help, you call that person, and that is that liaison. They are the ones right then and there getting on the phone, making those phone calls. We might have to transport
to
one given location, and from there they see it all the way through, right? That team would see that all the way through, kind of like an MDT, the multidisciplinary team.
Mm-hmm.
So this, we got to think a little bit broader. Homelessness will lead to drug addiction, unemployment, injuries, broken homes. On more than one occasion, I can't say for sure, I can think of at least 4 different families I've arrested, everybody from the kids all the way through dad.
Really?
In this county. So when you start running into that, that's where you need that intervention.
Right.
We're law enforcement. I'm not a counselor.
Yeah.
But I know people that are, and that's why they're there. That's what they get paid to do.
Jack of all trades, master of none.
Yeah. So I'm an expert at using experts. I may not know everything, but my Lord, you know what? I can find it.
Yeah.
So we got to start at the ground level. We can't do it by ourselves. It has to be a community. I'm not laying it all on the community, but as a team effort, we can start to really dwindle this down. And if people don't think people are homeless in this county, there's a couple that are in Waynesville, but I'm talking, there's the ones you don't see because they're sleeping on a tent somewhere you don't know about, which we do, or they're jumping from one house until they burn a bridge because they stole something. Then they go to another house, and then they go to another house, and that's, they're still homeless. They have nowhere.
Right.
So, we got to hit it from the ground up. And it sounds like a lot, there's a lot of things that need to happen. It doesn't mean it'll happen overnight, but that is a concept. It's still being researched because, you got to worry about a funding source. You got to worry about, there's a lot of legalities, assembling the community resources, do it. You got to get stakeholder buy-in. You can't just say we're going to do it because I could implement it, but if I don't have the resources, well, it looks good on paper, but it has no meaning.
You're just on the curbside preaching to the choir, preaching to the wind.
Singing in a megaphone and hoping people listen.
Now, talking about partnerships and collaboration with, I call them NGOs, non-governmental organizations or non-for-profits or what have you. We're on the I-44 corridors, big traffic way for drug problems going along. How about the relationship between Pulaski County Sheriff's Department, local police, municipalities, and the state and federal on the traffic going through the county and taking root?
So I know at least 2 regions because I deal with them, which is F and I. So F is where I work full time. I, which is this area, they hold quarterly intel meetings.
Okay.
It's open to every law enforcement agency in that region can attend it. And they share all that information.
State or federal?
Huh?
State or federal?
state, and a couple of times we've had the feds were in as
Okay.
well. It just depends on what's going on, what's occurring.
Right.
When we talk to the state, which puts it on, MIAC, the Missouri Information Analysis Center, if we got something, they will invite the appropriate agencies to ensure they're there, so
Okay.
that can get shared. Something I would like to see happen again is at least monthly, maybe quarterly. We need to kind of work it out between all the law enforcement agencies. Selected individuals come in
Sure.
and talk. We already talk case wise, but sometimes if we're not sharing information regularly, things will get slipped through, and that's to enhance it. Something I'd also like to see again is the bosses, if you will, the chiefs and the sheriffs sitting down monthly, having a lunch. Hey, what's going on? What can we do better? One of my guys ticking off your guys.
Right,
what are we doing? And to hash that out. I have a good working relationship with the other agencies, including Pulaski County. They know if they call, we're there, vice versa.
We're going to show up.
We're going to show up. So, even with election processes, at the end of the day, regardless of who wins, we're here for the community. We've still got to do what is best for the community. Set egos aside, set our personal differences aside, do what we need to do for the community. So,
have you ever seen the movie Super Troopers?
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah,
that's the first thing I thought of about territory dispute between state and local officers.
And we've got.
I mean, let me bring that up now. I'm thinking about it. You got every once in a while you'll see a sheriff's deputy or a Waynesville police officer on the I-44, and that's all right.
Yeah, they're in their jurisdiction. They're within their jurisdiction.
Okay.
And to be quite honest, it's the dope is coming up from different avenues. 44 is a major corridor, but in all honesty, every once in a while, it doesn't hurt them to get out there. It breaks the monotony.
Sure.
Because when you run traffic in the city, it'll wear on you. Get out on the highway, run a little bit out there. You never know what you're going to get into. It is interdiction. It's not just about writing a speeding ticket. There's interdiction. That's usually what they're looking for. But it also shows some presence. And Waynesville, St. Robert all do it. They all have a stretch of the city limits in there. So.
And don't they have agreements to help each other? Mutual aid?
Yeah, we all have mutual mutual aid agreements. So, if Waynesville called us, we can show up. Vice versa. I can tell you they have backed us up. Vice versa. County covers the whole county anyway.
Right.
So the mutual aid agreement's more for municipalities, so we can run into the county and help them and be covered. So,
move your mic a little closer. Break it up. There we go.
I'm losing my voice. I've been on the phone all day with people. This is a busy day.
Now, one of the most common things between speaking with you, Brian, Stacy, is accountability and transparency down at the Sheriff's Department. And not saying so much accountability, but more transparency. I've actually gone out there and started following these other county sheriff's offices and police offices, see what they use, how they exploit and capitalize on the power of social media. And you've probably already talked about this a few times, but your strategy for transparency in the department.
So, I don't know. We've covered so much.
So
if you remember, I was talking about getting accredited as a law enforcement agency.
Right.
I mean, we are a law enforcement agency, but when you get CALEA accredited, one of the big things is transparency. They put up everything: use of force reports, arrest reports, or numbers, not the actual reports, but the numbers. And that is, the community can see it. It's published on their website.
Right.
So if you look up a CALEA agency, I think Springfield may be a CALEA agency. Go out and look at it. You can type it up. You'll see everything. Some of it do by officer's name. We were talking about it in a different meeting at an intel meeting. They were talking about, well, this guy's got, double the number of use of force reports compared to this guy.
Right.
Well, it was because of the zone he worked, or that area.
Work in a bad area, bad things happen.
Yeah. So, the numbers, you also have to put it in context.
Sure.
Where are they working at within their jurisdiction?
Right.
If you're working in an area of your jurisdiction that consists of $500,000 homes and people that live good, you're not going to have that, or very, very, very minimal. So, but that all falls in transparency. Budget's always out there. Everything's there, right? And it's no different when you produce a report. So, like for 5 years, I helped prepare a council report. We put everything in there. Here's all the money we spent. Here's where it went. We could account for every dime, right? This is what we got in on grants. This is what it went out. This is it. We had to fix a car. This is what the money was spent on. So everything was always there. Anybody can see that.
Right.
And that's important. So they know where that money is going and why.
Right.
Because last time I checked, I'm a taxpayer too.
That's right.
So sometimes the community doesn't understand, well, why do you need that? That's where we need to explain, hey, this is why.
Well, it's kind of like a need statement, we need X, Y, Z because of the ABC, and this is the reason why we need it versus why we don't. It's a must-have versus nice-to-have.
Yeah, nicety versus necessity. So that would be a big part of it. That would be long-term. Those accreditations are not cheap. However, if we did get it, everything's wrapped up into it. That would include the jail. Your insurance, it helps bring your insurance down, your liability down. And that the whole purpose of accreditation is not only saying, yes, you're accredited, but it also puts all those policies and procedures in place to mitigate lawsuits and, use of force, that type of thing.
It's kind of like an audit where how do you measure success unless you have a standard to measure it against? Yep. And so therefore, you say you're supposed to do the X, Y, Z on your SOP. This is how you measure performance based on that. So,
and as far as social media, so I would have to actually get in there and look, but we would produce the numbers. Hey, we had this number of arrests this month. Arrests don't always result in convictions. That's the nature of the beast in criminal justice and law enforcement. But hey, we had this number of arrests. Charges can change. You may respond to something that appeared to be a burglary. It may end up being a trespass, whatever it may be. But those numbers, once they're finalized, would get published. Also, your UCR, your crime reporting. I'm really stringent on that because that is really good to show the people what's really going on. And that comes in a review, making sure you tag that case the way it's supposed to, the right offense is getting documented.
Right.
Because it does no good to underreport, say, oh, crime's down. Well, crime's not down, you're just not reporting it.
Yeah.
And I don't mean the people aren't reporting it. I mean the reports aren't getting generated or not getting generated correctly.
Right. Quality in, quality out.
Yeah. So a lot of agencies have what's called an informational report, and that's saying, hey, we responded, we did an investigation, for lack of better terminology, but no crime was committed, but we spent a day doing this. So we're going to document everything, everything that transpired. Well, that doesn't get reported up because no crime was committed. We didn't know that until we investigated it.
The challenge with that type of in-depth, I would say, accountability is it takes resources in and of itself.
Yeah.
So I guess I would have to be patient with anybody who took over that office and tried to implement a transparency plan.
Whoever oversees the road, whoever oversees the detectives, that's one of their first quality controls. When they look at a report, they should be looking, okay, is it correct?
Right.
Do we have the right offenses listed? That type of thing. And then they go into all the administrative data.
Yeah.
Names, are they spelled right? Blah blah blah. And then it goes up. And there will be a second check, the person who actually does the reporting to the state, and they should be checking as well.
Right.
They just need to know what elements of a crime are to make sure we tag it.
Keep pushing that away from you.
I think it's your sound engineer pulling it forward.
No, she's not.
I'm kidding.
He's out.
But so the accuracy is really important. It is tedious, but without that, the public doesn't know. So, you can do a lot with a little. But when you want more, you need to show why you need it. And if we're not documenting, and I'm not saying document absolutely everything, because I hate paperwork probably more than anybody, and I generate a lot.
Right.
But it is an absolute necessity. There's a thing in law enforcement, we say, if it's not documented, it didn't happen.
I can relate to that.
Yeah. So, um, reporting is really critical, and accuracy in reporting, and letting the public
Mm-hmm.
see that, so they understand, why are we spending money on this?
Right.
You know, I talk a lot about intelligence-based policing. There's systems out there for that actually help you do link analysis,
Mm-hmm.
all kinds of crime charting, crime mapping, all that. Those systems are not cheap, but if we can show this is why we need it, we can go find the
And the
funding for that.
benefit too.
Yes, and how it would benefit. But we got to be able to show that. We can't just
Sure.
say, I want that, because it's cool.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cool things out there we'd like to have.
Yeah, with infinite resources.
Yeah, but we are not an infinite. And there's grants out there, and we can go into that at a different time. But what else you got for us?
Last question I have. Now, it's going to the election process.
Okay.
I'm seeing signs. I'm seeing more signs. I'm seeing signs, and then I'm seeing more signs. And obviously, it's getting hot and hot. Now, myself, I can understand the principle behind name recognition. Maybe you want to explain to the listeners and the viewers at home and far abroad and nationwide and even the world.
Oh, Lord. Everybody, what?
About the value of the sign versus what they're not seeing from the sign.
Okay, so signs are important for recognition, name recognition. This is not my first rodeo. Most people know it.
Right.
And I've spent a small fortune in advertising myself in the past. And what I found is, signs are important to let people know who's running.
Right.
But the signs are not the research. And I tell everybody, make an informed decision. Do your research, look us up. Look all of us up. Every candidate.
Yeah.
You know, and when you do your research and you're happy with somebody else, even if it's not me, I'm going to be good, and I'll respect that decision because you did the research and you felt more comfortable. When you make a decision based on, even on a national level, I still do a lot of reading, a lot of research. Local level more so, because it impacts us daily. You know, I mean, yes, national politics do to an extent, but signs are important. It makes it look like, man, you're working hard. That doesn't mean that's how many people you're talking to. Not only that, honestly, I get tuned out. I know as a voter, before I ever got involved in politics, if I saw 9,000 signs of one person, I'm not turned off.
Right.
You know, I mean, that is me. That is not everybody.
We'll get to that next.
Oh, okay. I just saw it pop up out of the corner of my eye.
I'm going to put him on mute.
Oh, okay. Block him.
That's right.
Again, signs don't vote, and signs don't project any vision, any experience, or anything else. It's a name.
Well, I don't like, they seem to have this perception, some people, and we had this discussion driving down the road, me and the wife or whatever, and what the value was. And I have to agree with you. Name recognition. What do you know about this can? Oh, I can't see nothing from a sign. I just know somebody spent $100 on the. I know that from the size of the sign, the one on the side of the road is $100. The other ones are $75. I know there's some money being spent.
Yeah, and yard signs aren't cheap,
right?
You know, so signs just tell people, hey, this is who's running. It doesn't give them any information,
right?
And when I first joined the Republican Club, which, as far as I know, I'm the longest member of any of the candidates. I've been in it longer than anyone. That's one of the first things I learned was, man, everybody is throwing up a ton of signs,
right?
But there was not, and back then social media wasn't a huge thing. You had to go out and find out who they were and what they were really about, and I learned that, the signs are just that, signs.
Right.
It doesn't give you anything, their history, their backing, or anything else. So,
that's kind of the whole purpose behind this thing. When I put this together, people get there and ask questions directly rather than waiting until the Republican Club has their little shindig next month.
Yeah, I'd have to look again up. July 8th, 9th, something like that. Well, it's on my calendar.
Your debate with me is on the 29th.
Oh, okay. You might want to send me a reminder.
I sent Brian a reminder, and I invited the other two as well.
Okay, I was going to say, yeah, you might
I
blast me.
think Brian's confirmed. So, but Darren's got another question. Thank you so much, Darren, for a regular tuner. All other candidates have said why they feel they are the best choice for sheriff. Why do you want to be sheriff?
Okay, so I retired here. This is why I called home.
Right.
And I've continued to see a decline in capabilities. We continue to see consistent OD deaths. We continue to see thefts. Nothing's being resolved. And I'm one of those, you're either going to be part of the solution or part of the problem. Don't sit back.
Right.
Why do I want to be sheriff? I bring more training, experience, and education than any other candidates. And I'll stand on a judge's bench and swear to that.
Right.
So where others will say, hey, I've been a cop for X, Y, and Z, I've done it for 27 years consistently, boots on the ground, doing casework. Even in Army, as an agent in charge, you ran an office, we ran criminal investigations, you had to manage manpower, expenditures to an extent, you know how the Army budget is.
Yep.
You know, you had to finagle, you know, prioritization of cases, evidence, everything stays the same. The rules of evidence do not change between the military and civilian sector. Laws are laws. You know, they still had Miranda rights. They still had, you know, chain of custody. Everything's the same.
Right.
You still had courts. Nothing changes. You know, terminology might.
Right.
Laws don't. So, you know, I've done that consistently for 27 years. No breaks. You know, I was a contractor for 3 years, and even at that time, I was putting in anywhere from 20 to 30 hours with the sheriff's department back then.
Here at Pulaski County.
Yeah, that was under J.B. King at the time. Another sheriff won. Politics come into play because I might have ran against them. So, you know, out the door we go. That's politics. No harm, no foul.
Sure.
And I continue to stay in law enforcement in this county. By far, I've got more. And I don't like to brag on it, but I've spent 27 years doing what I'm doing and building up to that point. Not, well, I woke up today and want to be sheriff, and I've been a cop for 10 days, you know. And it's not a ding on the other candidates. They all bring something a little bit different, a different mindset.
Sure.
But I'm not, if you want to talk politics, I'm not a far right Republican. I'm one of those center mass people. I'm here for the people. If you call me, I don't give a crap what party you belong to. It's irrelevant. You're a citizen or somebody passing through our county, and we're going to do the best to help you.
All right.
I don't care about any of the other crap.
Right.
You know, people before the politics.
Right.
Period. And politics, I think, as far as I'm concerned, are destroying law enforcement.
I'm going to trademark that, so be careful.
What's that?
Politics, or people before politics.
Yeah, people before politics. So,
Darren, I hope that answers your question.
So, you know, I spent a long time building my resume and doing what I do. And I'm getting a little older, a little harder to hit the doors like I used to.
Sure.
I'll still do it if I gotta. If they want me as the guy on the front, I'll do it.
Let me wind up a little bit.
Yeah, but give me a minute to stretch and warm up. The joints are a little older, but I still do the job day in, day out. You know, I bring grant writing experience. I bring management experience. You can go to the agency I was with prior, not the ones I'm with now. The drug arrests have dropped probably, and the cases have dropped significantly. The last gauge I had was over 75%.
Really?
We were aggressive.
Wow.
Very aggressive. Wow. If you were somebody in our area and we knew you had a warrant, we were hunting. You know, if you were bringing dope in, we were hunting. Most of our dope at the time came from traffic stops. There was some other incidents, but I think the best one we ever had was we got 100. I'm trying to remember and this has been years ago. This has been about 2018, 19. We got 119 grams of meth coming through the town from a skinhead out of Joplin.
No kidding.
Yeah, white supremacist on a traffic stop right in front of the PD. Like they didn't even have, they just hooked him up and brought him through the door. Priceless. Solid case.
Yeah.
But you got to be aggressive. You got to know the law, be able to get the dope and work it. And I'm not a politician, I'll tell you right now. Yeah. So One of my counterparts said I'm a little bit abrasive. Matter of fact, his ad popped up. We were joking about it.
Yeah.
And he goes, "You're just a little abrasive." I was like, "No, man, I'm just consistent, you know." And I don't feel I'm abrasive. Sometimes I might come off that way, but if I firmly believe something, I'm gonna stand my ground, you
Right.
know. And if you know, I'll stand my ground for any victim of anything either. If
Right.
it's wrong, and I'll run the distance.
Right.
And I don't give up. I'm either going to run out of statute of limitations or leads, but we're going to go the distance. So, I just believe one of the biggest things with law enforcement is sometimes we get a little overwhelmed.
Sure.
And in our caseload stacks up. This is not a ding. Every agency goes through this.
Right.
I'm here to tell you, they are covered up in work. I haven't found an agency that isn't.
I can't imagine a scenario where they wouldn't be with the way society is today.
Yeah. Well, you know, there's so much on the back end. People don't see all the paperwork that has come with it, you know, processing evidence, everything that goes with that. They don't see that on the back end. They see us out there. They see the lights. They see cop cars everywhere. And they see somebody go to jail. Man, there's a whole ton that comes after that, you know. But what happens is you get a case today and there's things that need to be done. And then tomorrow you get another one. And the next day you get another one. The next day you get another one. Pretty soon you're stacked and you can't get back to the first one. I deal with it daily, you know, and it frustrates people, but I keep them alive. I keep going as fast as I can, you know, and then your small agencies, you may have be dual hatted. You may be the maintenance guy,
right,
taking care of vehicles, you know, and you might be, you know, a deputy that's assigned the evidence room as well, or, you know, I believe County actually is fortunate enough to have an evidence custodian, so that helps. But there's so many other things that go on that it's no fault of the agency. You know, when you can't staff them with enough people, you know, this is not a ding on anybody. So everybody needs to kind of I'm trying to give a picture of what it's like. So what you got to do is you got to make the best you can with what you have. The other duties still have to happen. You still have to get evidence in the evidence room. You still have to get things to the lab. All these things have to happen. And oh, by the way, we still got to run the road. We still got to respond to cases, detectives, you know, all these other things.
We got the jail. We got the courts.
Exactly. We got to do transports, you know. I can tell you right now, I've been yanked upstairs at the county I work at. Oh, by the way, hey, we need you upstairs to be bailiff. Okay. Guess I'm going to be a bailiff.
That's my day's shot.
Yeah. You know, it's usually it's a couple hours. No harm, no foul, teamwork, right?
Right.
But that's what happens. Now we're more blessed here. You know, we got full-time bailiffs for the court, so we have a little more leeway. But again, it's one of those, there's a lot that goes on, and that goes into the transparency and be able to communicate that to the public, and being able to explain, hey, this is what's really going on. This is what happens. We have to do this. We can cut it down to bare bones, but it's still going to happen.
It's like a full job description.
Oh, yeah.
It isn't just this, but this.
Yeah. You know, it's like being in an army. Yeah, you can be a mechanic, but oh, by the way, you're an infantryman. Oh, by the way, today you are a painter because we got to paint a parking lot.
That's right.
And tomorrow you may be a lawn care. You might be a landscaper.
That's right.
So there's a lot that goes on. It has to be done, and we got to take care of business, and that's the nature of the beast.
That's awesome.
So,
well, we're going to open up the phone lines for a few minutes. If you got any questions for Nick, I got the phone in my hand. Of course, if you're listening to this later, the phone number is not active. I shut it off after every interview and every show. So if you have a question, call us in quick.
Yeah. I know I'm getting past your bedtime.
We go to bed early around these parts.
Some of us work for a living.
No, I know better.
Yeah. But it's always a good time. I can't wait to see what you have next time.
Oh, we'll be ready. Well, don't forget, that's next 2 weeks.
2 weeks, yeah.
So this next week will be Thursday, so we'll have you back in here Thursday, 7 o'clock.
Yeah, you might send me a reminder because I
sure will.
I'll probably sleep somewhere between there. Not a lot, but I'm sure I'm going to get some sleep in there.
So it's overrated. With that, everybody, we're going to say thank you to all the sponsors. Thank you, Nick, for being here. Thank you for taking the questions. Darren, thank you, and everybody who's watching. And until next time, I'm going to say adios and sayonara.